What's up, degenerates? It's it's actually not halftime of TNF. I'm reading my old script. We are early this week. We have a special edition of Over Underdogs. We are doing the Thanksgiving slate tonight so that you guys have a nice little side dish of an Over Underdogs entry to go along with your turkey tomorrow. I've got the boys with me as usual, and I'm your host, Mason Cameron at PFF_Mace on the Twitter. And with me, my partner in crime, Vishaal Gupta at Vishaal_Gupta95 on Twitter. And I don't know how our cameras got switched. There we go.
No
It's
worries.
always some sort of technical difficulty. But V, how are you doing tonight? You ready to make some money?
Yeah, doing good. Excited for a fun day tomorrow. We actually got some pretty good games, I think, so it should be a good time tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely should definitely be a good one. Some high level teams are going to be playing. We're going to have some good ball on. And of course, joining us as usual is IN betting writer Vaughn Moore at VMoore1724 on Twitter. Vaughn, it's good to have you back. How are you doing?
Doing great. Ready for Thanksgiving, ready to make some money, and I'm ready to give money as well.
There we go. We love to see it. We love to see it.
No?
And so for anybody joining us from the Roster of the People show that was on right before this, you're finally onto the main event. Congratulations for slogging it through those jokers. We're happy to have you here. It's going to be a really good time tonight. Hopefully we're going to win you some money so you can get into the IN Discord and you can yell at those guys directly on there. That's always a good time. But I have to hold us off. Usually we start the show with going over our records. But because we have a little bit of a different show this week, we're actually going to go over all the records tomorrow, or not tomorrow, Friday when we do Locked In, because then we're going to have the results for last week and this week, and we'll be able to have the most accurate graphic. So that's going to be cool. So we're going to hold off on that one. But all we have is the desire to win this money. So what we're going to do is business as usual. We are playing all of our tickets with Underdogs PickEm Insurance. For anybody that doesn't know, PickEm Insurance is a great way to hedge your entry. When you turn on insurance, your potential payouts, they get reduced just a little bit, but even if you miss a pick, you still get to win money. And we've been killing it with that. V is hitting every damn week. You love to see it. But without further ado, we're actually just going to hop right into the picks this week. And like I said, all of our picks are for the Thursday slate, so you guys have something to sink your teeth into. If you guys want more stuff for the rest of the slate coming on Sunday, make sure you guys check Locked In on Friday, same time as usual, 8 p.m. Eastern, and definitely get into our Discord, and you can get all of our picks there as well. So we're getting into it. As usual, V, why don't you start the people off with your ticket here?
All right, let's get started with Gabe Davis, higher than 61.5 receiving yards. I like this number primarily because he's gone higher than this number in 2 straight games, and he is just getting a lot of volume right now. In his last 4 games, he is averaging more than 7 targets per game, so he's just getting a ton of looks. Josh Allen is looking his way. The Bills are kind of playing closer games than maybe they would have expected, or us fans of it would have expected, which is leading to more passing opportunities for Josh Allen and the receivers. Gabe Davis is now leading the league in yards per catch at 21.1. That is just crazy high number. I can't over 20 yards per catch. It's pretty ridiculous. So he just needs 3 catches, and he can go over this number pretty easily. He can do it in 1 catch. We saw it, with this 98-yarder against Pittsburgh earlier in the season. Plus, he's going up against a Detroit defense that's allowing the 5th most passing yards per game. I think this is going to be a fun game, a high-scoring game, a potentially closer game than we would expect. So I think there's going to be plenty of targets for Gabe Davis to go higher than 61.5 receiving yards. Next up, Dak Prescott, lower than 32.5 passing attempts. This number is pretty juiced up for some reason. He's only gone higher than this number 1 time this season, and that was a couple of weeks ago against Green Bay when they kind of blew their late lead and they kind of had to play catch up, which forced them into more passing opportunities. But for the most part, this team has been blowing teams out, and then when they do that, they love to run the ball. They love to give it to Ezekiel Elliott, and they are now starting to realize that Tony Pollard is a legit, starting running back in this league. So they're giving him plenty of carries as well. I think this is going to be a pretty easy win for them against a Giants team that is starting to fall off and is kind of falling down to earth and playing closer to what we expected than what they were doing early in the season when they were just winning a ton of games they probably shouldn't have. So I think there's going to be a ton of running opportunities again in this game, and 32.5 is just too many. Again, he only has one game this season with more than 30 pass attempts. So this for this number to be at 32.5 just seems weirdly high to me. I don't know why they said it so high. And then finally, Ramondre Stevenson, higher than 27.5 receiving yards. You'll see the graphic as 30.5. I was able to get it a little earlier in the day at 27.5. It's already been pushed up to 30.5. I would still take this number at 30.5, primarily just because of the amount of volume he's getting in the passing game. He is averaging 7 targets a game in his last 4 games. That's pretty astounding for a running back. I'm sure if we look at it, the only other people in that range are going to be like Austin Eckler. He's getting just a ton of work in the passing game. So if you're getting 7 targets a game, you only need to get 5 yards per catch, or 5 yards per target to go higher than this number. Shouldn't be too difficult. He's going up against a Minnesota defense that got torched by Tony Pollard in the passing game last week. You saw he had 2 long touchdown catches. So I think this should be pretty easy for Ramondre Stevenson to go higher than 27.5 or 30.5, wherever you get it at.
Yeah, absolutely. And you said it right there. Tony Pollard, man. Wow. That was amazing. We're going to have a little Tony Pollard pick here a little bit later, too.
I'm sure.
Not to tease it here. But here we go. And now on to you, Vaughn. We have your ticket here. It's always chock full of money. Why don't you run everybody through what you're picking out this week?
All right. So I'll start off with Stephon Diggs, higher than 93.5 receiving yards. As a Bills fan, I make it a rule to never touch any props in Bills games, but I'll make an exception for Turkey Day. This is a classic redemption spot for Diggs. The Lions typically struggle against wide receiver ones because they lack a great man-to-man island corner who can match up with them. It's a lot of zone, which is bad news with Josh Allen coming to town, who thrives against it. Diggs had a disappointing performance against the Browns last week and will be eager to make up for it on national TV. I expect it to be an Allen Diggs fireworks show tomorrow that'll make you think it's still July 4th. My second pick, Daniel Jones, higher than 0.5 interceptions. When I saw this number, I immediately wrote it down as one of my picks for this week. The severe lack of available receiving talent on this team was exposed against Detroit last week, as Jones receivers could not get open all game. Even worse, their most talented receiver left, Wan'Dale Robinson, tore his ACL last week. So Dan Quinn and this tough Dallas defense are going to be salivating in anticipation for this matchup. I just can't see at least one of Jones' passes not being intercepted at some point in this game, especially if they're down in the second half and forced to throw it downfield. My third pick, this is a bold one, but Justin Jefferson lower than 15.65 fantasy points. This seems also like a classic Jefferson redemption game on paper after their blowout loss to the Cowboys last week. However, I love the lower in this spot for one reason, and that is Bill Belichick. Belichick is a master defensive game planner who always manages to erase the best aspect of an opposing offense. Their elite defense is going to be keying in on Jefferson the entire game. Taking the lower on the number one option on a team playing the Patriots has been my most successful prop betting strategy this season, and I will continue to use it.
Yeah, I love to see it. I'm actually leaning another way there too. I think I messed up the graphic here. It's only business as usual. If I messed up V's graphic, I got to mess up your graphic too, Vaughn. So it is okay. But for anybody watching, we'll definitely get those fixed before they get into the Discord. So you guys have those at your fingertips and ready. And last but certainly not least, if I do pat myself on the back, is my card here. And we are starting off with a Devin Singletary higher than 13 rushing attempts. And we kind of already hit on it right here. I don't see this game being very close at all. The draw here is the unexpected value you're going to get from the often overlooked Bills run game. A 9.5-point road spread for the Bills indicates everything we already knew about this matchup. It's not going to be close, and it's going to open up huge opportunity for the Bills to run out the clock here. I know that the Lions scored 30 in their last 2. but that wasn't against nearly as strong of opponents as the Bears and the Giants. And now they face the Bills. It's just not going to go very well for them. They're not going to throw up 30. This isn't going to be close to where the Bills are going to be forced to throw the ball more than they have to. And it's going to be an interesting draw. I think you're going to have, if you take this Singletary projection right here, you're going to pretty much have it heading into halftime and heading to sit down at the table to get your turkey. You're already going to have money in your pocket. Singletary is the lead back in this backfield, even with James Cook getting more burn. And since the Bills bye week in week 7, he's had 13 or more carries in 3 of the 4 games. So one of those games he did have 13, so it was a push, but the other 2 were higher. So that's a great percentage that you'd like to see out of recent production. And that's a really strong note for, a Detroit defense that just has not played very well, frankly. And this is going to be a tough matchup for them for sure. On to our second pick of the ticket. We are looking at a Tony Pollard higher than 21.5 receiving yards. I told you we were going to get into some Pollard. How could we not after the run he's been on? The secret is out. Tony Pollard is a real deal. He's been a killer on the ground the past few games, but he absolutely exploded in the passing game this past week, leading the team in receiving with 6 catches for 109 yards and 2 scores. Dak looked extremely comfortable putting the ball into Pollard's hands, and they're surely going to have to continue to check that and get him the ball in any way that they can. With how much the Giants blitz, that's going to leave their linebackers in man coverage on Pollard, and that's a recipe for disaster that they're not going to want to see. The Vikings did that last week. We talked about that just a minute ago, and he absolutely erupted against them. It's just going to be an interesting draw. I think they're going to be chasing a lot of Pollard. Pollard is the Cowboys' best player, and they finally realize it. So to get this projection at 21.5 receiving yards, yes, I get that that's kind of higher than he's been most of the season, but now they understand that this guy needs the ball however they can get it to him, and they're going to get it to him. So he's going to be exciting to watch moving forward and not just in this game. And then for our last pick, we are taking Kirk Cousins lower than 247.5 passing yards. And this is just not the matchup that Kirk O'Chains and company needed after shitting the bed this past week. The Pats are the real deal on defense, like Vaughn said. They hold the league's best EPA per play, best EPA per dropback, and they sent Zach Wilson to the bench this past week after a 77-yard, yes, 77 yards performance. They've only allowed a passer to exceed this projection 4 times this season, and just as many times they've held a passer under 200 yards. So that's really not that, shocking. They are an elite unit. Cousins has only surpassed this projection in half of his games since their week 7 bye. Granted, he did play well a few weeks ago against a tough Bills defense, but then he followed that up with just 105 yards against the Cowboys. This is an easy fade against the D that's better than both of those vaunted units. So this is an easy lower for me, and I think it's going to be chock full of value, kind of like what Vaughn said with the Justin Jefferson selection, that it's just going to be tough sledding for them this week, especially on a short week after what just happened to them, for sure. And so we also don't have a locks graphic because the early week has definitely set me back. But V, why don't you go ahead and tell everybody who you're locking up this week?
I'm going to go ahead and lock up the Dak Prescott lower than 32.5 passing attempts. Again, he's only gone higher than 30 passing attempts once this season, and that was when he was trailing. I don't expect them to do a lot of trailing in this game. I see a lot of running with Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott. So I'm going to lock up lower than 32.5 passing attempts.
It just makes too much sense. Vaughn, why don't you give the people what you're locking up this week?
So this was a tough choice because I'm pretty confident about all 3 of my picks, but I'm just gonna go with the worst player on of the 3. I'm gonna go Daniel Jones, higher than 0.5 interceptions. I know he did a great job avoiding turnovers for a while, but he threw 2 last week against the Lions, and I can't imagine that Dan Quinn and this Dallas defense isn't going to snatch one of them.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And they've been playing about as well as you could hope. They're really lights out. Micah Parsons has been crazy. When you add that pressure, it's just like Dan's going to cough one up. That's just how it works. That's just how he's going to do it. And then for myself here, we are going to go ahead and lock up the Devin Singletary higher than 13 rushing attempts. Now, the talk of Josh Allen's elbow might be a little bit overblown, and these things aren't necessarily things that are going to heal themselves. But I also think the Bills understand that they're a team that's going to be going to the playoffs, and they're going to be hosting some playoff games. And it gets cold up there in Buffalo, as we just saw with, 6 feet of snow. Buffalo is also playing in Detroit, where they played last week for their home game because of this snow. They're comfortable where they are. I think they understand that the weather from where they play is going to mean that they're going to need to run the ball quite a bit. They're going to want to start getting more comfortable running the ball. I think that this is a shoo-in for sure. So that about does it for us tonight, guys. That is going to be a really great ticket that we're going to have here for the Turkey Day. I'm excited. Happy holidays to everybody. We are back, not same time next week. We're going to be back in our usual time slot, halftime of Thursday Night Football. You don't want to miss it. We're also going to be doing Locked In Friday, same time as usual, 8 p.m. Eastern. You're not going to want to miss it. Check out all of the IN betting teams' work over at Important Nonsense. We are killing it over there, guys. I'm telling you, V, Vaughn, Logan, Ben, they're absolutely lights out. You got to get all their work. And join our Patreon. That's how you get into our Discord. And that's how you can yell at us. You get all of our picks. We even got World Cup picks going right now, courtesy of our guy, Nee Wallace Bruce. You can't miss those. And shop.important nonsense. That's the only last one. Promo code LOCK to get all of your holiday merch, your ugly Christmas sweater, your Russell Wilson burnt the turkey sweater that I know you all want. And that about does it for us. V, do you have any parting words for the people at home?
Should be a good day tomorrow. I liked how we all had one pick from each game tomorrow. So it's a nice little ticket. If everybody wants to put in a ticket for each game, I think it'll work out pretty nicely. It should be a good time tomorrow. And we'll catch up on Friday for the long show.
Yeah, it's nice when it works out that way, right?
Yeah.
And Vaughn, do you have any parting words for the people at home?
Just have a great Turkey Day, everybody, and don't worry if you have one too many beers. You'll be fine. Well, you'll be off this weekend.
There you go. Hug your families for us, guys. And until next time, good night and good luck.